Hello, hello. How's everyone doing? Hey Prince, how's it going? So you're gonna be on Alex's stream later. They didn't have times when everybody was going on, so hopefully this doesn't overlap with that because I kind of want to see your Rust work there. I was going to. Ah, nice, nice. Yes, I am curious as well. It's so Blender's been around for a while, and I don't know that they were following Semver, but they've been on version 2 for a long time. And version 3 just went into beta. I think they call it Beacon 3 or something like that. And sharing this link out here. And I was like, well, I kind of don't want to like get into it and then it change a bunch after I've figured things out. So I was sort of waiting for V3. And this felt like a good time. What I'm also curious about is it has the ability to export as GLTF, and I'm pretty certain I can make that show up on a web page, which I think will be interesting, because that makes me think we could do something in Blender, drop it on a web page, hook it up potentially with the animations to something that could show up on stream. Okay. Alright, it's been a week. I'm still trying to play catch up with everything. Let's switch over to some display. So I've got Blender up already. And the little pop-up that came up says it was V3 beta. Assume that here's it about. V3 beta. So we're on the new. And when you first open it, it starts you off with a cube. And I'm still sort of figuring out the controls. So this is on Windows. Clicking the middle mouse, I can rotate around. Zoom in and out with mouse wheel. And then for the most part, I think it's just selecting stuff. And with many of these modeling programs, they tend to give you like the shortcuts or ways to interact in the bottom left, which is really helpful. I've done some modeling before. Yeah, and they all tend to do that. And that was something that I didn't catch on initially. And now I've noticed that many of them do that. So let's see. We've got a couple menu items up here. Kind of just curious to click through them. So I think for the most part, what I'll end up doing is start from like I guess sculpting is a good word. Start from like square-ish objects and sort of like move and shape them, almost like you are like a combination of like clay work and stone work is kind of what I feel like I'll end up doing in this program. I clicked on shading, it's still doing its thing. Okay, ooh. Oh, it's got like a built-in background. I'm not 100% certain what this is going to help us with. I can see we're in shading, so this is going to be like the shaders. So we're thinking like textures and how light reacts off of the textures that you're setting. And the other one, we'll probably just end up just sticking with solid colors for right now. And we'll do some playing around with modeling and sculpting. I don't know that we'll do too much rendering because when you output to GLTF, I don't think the render is going to help us there. Likely same for compositing, but I'm not too familiar with compositing stuff. And I'm also kind of curious what the scripting is. That's probably not going to happen today or in the near future. So we'll probably focus on animation and sculpting, I think. So this seems to be sort of all of the same things as up here. Edit, sculpt, vertex paint, weight paint, and texture paint. Interesting. Oh, okay, so edit mode, so I'm guessing edit mode lets you move. Ah, okay. So you can see here there's a bunch of icons. And it's not like stonework per se, because you can also do extrusions. Maybe more like metalwork is a better representation of it. And from what I've seen, this seems to be working off of vertices. So you give it edges and points, and it fills in the gaps effectively. All right, I will hopefully catch part of your stream, Prince. Good luck. Have fun. So we got an edge slice. The other, so there's rotating around with the middle mouse, and then if you hold Alt, it goes into 2D mode, which is nice. You can see in the top right here, it's rotating based off the axes. I really like that. So this like rotating and whatnot, that's all. I've basically opened it and did that and figured out how I could like move around in 3D space. Besides that, I am clueless how this works. So this is the light stuff. I'm gonna keep it on solid. That's gonna be fine for me now. Got viewports. And we have cuts. So it looks like there's these two modes. There's edit and object. Object lets you select pieces. So like we could create a new, I'm guessing one of these is rotate. Rotate selected items, move items, scale. Okay. You can scale in any direction, which is sort of similar to an extrusion. Transform looks like it's a sort of a combination of rotate, move, and scale. That's so object, add. It's an object. Okay. So a lot of these menus seem to sort of overlap where you can get to them from multiple places, which seems to sort of track with other things that I've done. It's very like power user, it feels like. So like we can add a circle. So that's a light source. And you can see on the right here, we've got all the like separate pieces. So we've got, oh, we do have a circle here. Okay. So if I, and it's not as solid, it looks like. So I want to move it so I can see it. Yeah, so it looks like it's not as solid. So if I go into edit mode, I think I should be able to extrude. Yeah, and you can see here, kind of did like a sideways sort of extrude. And then we can, I'm guessing we can fill in shears, sort of a big. Mesh, vertices, edges. So you can start from a circle or you can start from more of the 3D pieces. So like plane would be a square and then you can extrude it into a cube. When you extrude, you're just extruding the edges. A torus, oh that's kind of nifty. Okay, so it just adds it right in the middle. That's fine, I guess. Move. I want to do object mode. Okay, so we do have a torus here. Okay, that's kind of cool. I think I'll actually keep that. That's probably what I'll end up working with here. Ooh. Except these pieces are combined. I'm going to just delete everything and re-add a torus because I think they are nifty. Where'd it go? Interesting. Fluid flow. Interesting. Meatball. Was it split up like this before? It must have been. So now we have a torus. And then I think we can do. Curious what this sculpting is looking like. Okay, interesting. And honestly, I'm not sure what's actually part of V3 and what is typically existing in V2. So like, this could all be new and I just have no clue. So like, we can do a bunch of like smoothing. Just to give it a little bit of depth here. Snake hook, what? I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just playing around right now. As far as like, I'm not trying to achieve a specific thing. I'm kind of just playing around with the scraping tools and the stuff in general. Okay, so cloth. The cloth is interesting because you can put down a bunch of points, I'm guessing, and it would sort of fill in between. I'm not quite sure how it works though. I'm assuming that's what a cloth is. Simplify. Fill. It seems to track really well too. So like some of this is probably going to be more useful depending on what kind of elementary you're doing. This sculpting stuff seems kind of nifty though. I'm digging it. Rotate, nudge. Interesting. Pose. Whoa. And we've got a bunch of options over here too that I'm not even exploring. So, oh, blob. So we sort of have like a disfigured torus now. Crease. Clay thumb. Oh, that's gonna know. Cool. Okay, so draw. Can I literally just? I guess it just adds. So what the sculpting is sort of just like adding and subtracting and shifting is what it mostly seems like it's doing. Take a quick peek at the animation. I don't know what. Yeah, this is. Put a pin in this. Put a pin in this. We'll come back to it. So I know you can export stuff. And it might actually make us save it first, but so you can export as a GLTF 2.0. So I've worked with STL-FBX. Don't think I've done Wavefront. I've done a little bit with GLTF. Let's just stick it in. Here, let's do it on the side. I'm not sure what's in some of these folders. I want to go to folder menus. Interesting. Dev. This is fine. We'll just put it right in the root of my dev folder. Taurus, I guess. So there's two. We can do a binary, or we can do separate, or embedded. And GLB is the binary formatted and just exports as a single file. Considering we don't, as far as most of these libraries go, I don't think it matters. Importing things onto the web, I don't know that it matters if it's a GLTF or a GLB, but GLB is going to be smaller, and it says right there, most efficient and portable. And it'll only be one file, so I think that's probably going to be the easiest thing to work with. So we'll keep it on that. We might need to get into, so this is interesting. Depending on the modeling program you have, there's different conventions on what's the XYZ positioning. So what's up, down, left, right, and then rotations. There's right hand rule and left hand rule. So right hand rule would be stick your thumb up, and this would be a rotation positive. And the left hand rule would be the same. Can you go back? So that dictates which rotation, which way is positive and negative. All right. So we are going to geometry. Okay, so this was what I was curious about. I knew you could do animations, but I wasn't certain how it was going to show up. Like, animations are part of this file type. Export deformation bones only. So I think some of this lets you then hook into, so GLTF is a format where you could import it into another program, like an animation type program, and with bones, that would let you attach to separate points within that file and like move, you know, if the model was a person, you could have a structure where you can move their arms as opposed to just flopping around. Okay, we'll try that. I don't know if it happens instantly or how that goes. Okay, it went pretty, it looks like it's done already. I'm assuming so. So 80 kilobytes, I mean, these model files can be big, especially when they have all the textures and stuff in them. And that is potentially some of the reason. Like, I wonder if GLTF might also be a consideration because it is separate pieces, so they can cache separately. I'm not sure though. That's strictly a guess. Okay, so GLTF. There's a group called Chronos, which is, whoa, okay, whatever. Just go away. Go away, thank you. So it's a, I think it's more of like a conglomerate. I don't know that it's actually a specific company or anything. These are all the different presentations and articles and stuff that they've done on this. I mean, it's got an address, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a company or anything. I'm not 100% certain what the story is, but I know it's a group, and I know it's sort of like a conglomerate of, you know, you see the industry support. So a lot of this is sort of being pushed by gaming, it feels like. With this specific format. So like I've done a bunch of modeling with Autodesk products. They tend to not push the envelope much, is my general feeling. But the gaming industry does, because that's where they make their money. And so some of these are definitely sort of coming along for the ride. And you might see some interesting things in here, like IKEA and Wayfair. This is starting to be pulled into like the building and like physical space sort of industry, and that's where some of the Autodesk products come in as well. And you can make models of things, and these could be put in something like VR, and they can be put on web pages. And in apps, I guess that would be VR as well, likely. So a company can make a product and make a file like this that could then be either used directly in their app, or it could be imported. So in situations like IKEA, they might make files that could then be imported into programs for designing office spaces or buildings. So some of that would be like rendering, but once you start talking about like this specific format, I think you start thinking more in the like, rather than a single like 2D picture, it's more of a 3D model where you can do VR, AR type stuff, which I think is pretty interesting. So they've come, this group has come together to make this specification, and things are starting to support it better. But I believe, at least last time I came on here, there is a couple model viewers. So there's probably, I think this is a model that we can actually rotate around. Yep, okay, it was just too small. So some of these, they actually go into like 2D mode if they get too small. Maybe this one doesn't. And that's, I think, mostly for mobile support. So when you first load it, it'll just be like a picture. And then you can usually like click a button and it will do some more. Okay, so this is actually from Google. Interesting. So this is definitely new. I thought it was a different model viewer. And there are, I know there are a couple different viewers. We might look at some of those later, but like the fidelity of some of this is pretty cool. So like the textures and everything. And if you can start to animate some of this, you can do some pretty nifty things. So now that we have got a model, it's not going to look like much, but we should be able to edit snippet, model viewer, deploy mobile. Interesting. Download a scene, file image. Oh, here we go. Select a model. Oh, upload. So it is a GLB, it looks like. This one expects only a GLB. Oh, and there's actually a in Windows it looked like they're starting to do some more things too. So like you can actually see it in the Windows view. Like there's native built-in stuff, and I might have actually installed that. I don't remember. I might have. But you can see here we've got, you know, it's effectively just default textures. So like you see the gray in here. That's not necessarily like what it's going to look like. That's like it's just like a default texture right now. So it's like a, using the web page analogy, you've not set the background color. So depending on what you're using, the background color can potentially change. So like if you're in a web view, that background could actually be transparent. So contextually, it's just the default. So this viewer, the default color is lighter. Maybe a good, oh, you can do, so I'm distracting myself a little bit here, but sculpting lets you sort of just move and push and pull and whatnot. It looks like this modeling tab actually lets you edit vertice by vertice, which is nifty. But if we, here, texture paint, I think we can add some texture, export that, and then we'll be able to see that. Clone, fill, mask, texture paint, set weight paint. Interesting. So I'm hoping that I can find, okay, so it looks like you, oh, that's custom icons. Render, output, layers, world properties, collection. Okay, so I don't think this is specifically for this drawing. So this is kind of cool. You can see information about this specific object. Brush. So we're currently in the draw menu. I was hoping that, I mean, it looks like we can only really do colors. I was hoping that it would have some built-in like textures that we could apply, and then we could see that in here. But I am not texture. Texture mask. Nope. Yeah, it doesn't seem like we're gonna be able to do. Contact is shifting around to me. Doesn't seem like we're gonna be able to do any textures out of the box. Texture slots. That might be something we'll have to play around with a little bit. Oh, texture paint. Missing materials, textures detected. Okay. So that's sort of like blur. What's that's sort of like spray paint. There should be average. Mix darken. Feels very paintbrushy. I thought there was a fill. Fill. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this will give you the idea. So if we would do an export of this, we should be able to see some color in this viewer. Taurus blue. We will find out if we can. Yeah, so you can actually see it in that view too. So, and you can actually see like the vertices and whatnot. So these faces are angular enough that you can physically see them. When you start adding color, then you start to hide some of that, and that's where the texture maps and whatnot kind of come into play. You can have what is effectively a smooth object look like it has texture just based on the image that you're like putting on top of it. Okay, so we've got two models. We can like pull this in directly, and drop that in something. I am curious. Okay. So it's supported in last two major versions of the Evergreen browsers. Now, if we want to pull it into, our scene needs to be able to, like, if we want to pull it into OBS, we need to be able to have that support in the browser source of OBS. And I know they've got an older version, so we might run into issues there. So this model editor supposedly works with just the last two major releases, and I'm pretty sure it's further behind than that. Here you can see that they've got the textures and stuff in here. And GLTF is JSON, which is kind of cool. But that also speaks to why they've got a binary version. I like this. a bunch of sort of markety kind of type things here, but I'm looking to see if there's any other model viewers. I thought there was, I remember there being an older one, model. So, is it React Fiber 3? So 3JS, I believe, has the ability to import GLTF. It's a React renderer for 3JS. GLTF. Loading models. So they've got like a built-in loader. You can play with the sandbox and see how it looks. So see, they've got like a background in here already, and they've got that. So like we could, yeah. So they've got literally, right with Susan. So they've got one too. Oh, that lighting is kind of interesting there. Oh, Nikita. Nikita, I believe is how you say it. I didn't realize they were working on this kind of stuff. Is that shadows? No. I'm just kind of curious why that. Okay, you can stop rotating, please. Thank you. Light intensity. Okay. That's lighting. And environment is city. Oh, okay. It was just re-rendering. So the lighting is what's affecting the coloring of the default. That's why it doesn't look like it's gray. So you can see here, like it's not. We don't need a whole ton of code after we, presuming that we use these loaders that come with React 3 Fiber. So with 3JS, and particularly with React 3 Fiber, they've done a lot of the heavy lifting. We don't need to do too much. So as long as it has support, that's going to be the big deal. And what's kind of cool is through 3GS, I think we can add in the animation. So what we can do to test this, so loading GLTF models. So this is a sandbox and we can see it. Here, this is what I was, try it with Susan. Let's try this sandbox first. So we'll do a little bit of I think we can maybe make this work. We'll do a little bit of inception here, but I've got OBS on the side. And just to see if it actually shows up here, I can't remember the button to open this into its own window. Toggle responsive, open a new window, here we go. So this is gonna load, and this is basically just a web page. I think we can actually put in a browser source in here. Add browser test GLTF, and we'll see if it actually supports it. And I think this is going to be the quickest way to test. Look at that. So now you can't, I mean, I can interact. Are we gonna get the, I mean, we're already getting a little bit of inception. You can see it's pretty small. We'll try it. We're gonna do a little bit of the inception stuff here, but I'll make it bigger so it's not so wicked looking. With SGLTF, I can interact. Oh, so I'm not displaying my undo. There we go. Let's make that really small so you can see my screen. Okay. So I'm actually interacting with the web. So there's an interact button in OBS to interact with the browser source. So by me interacting with the browser source, you can also see that the thing is moving up there. But like that's not going to be, if we want to like integrate this into the stream in some manner, like that's not going to work. So I think we've confirmed that, yes, I want to remove. I think we've confirmed that we can actually use this in our stream, and then OBS supports, the version of OBS supports it. So let's do, what's the next test here? Does it have files? Okay, so it's got a GLTF in here. And I'm assuming we can just give it a binary as well. Yeah. Oh, I just realized that's their logo. And so you can see the texture. The texture is reflective. So you can actually see the background is that. You can actually see the background in it, which is nifty. Like that little edge that they've got on this right here too. So what we can do is, we know we can put it in a web page. We know we can get it into OBS. How are we doing for time? 40. Unfortunately, I don't have a good object for doing animation stuff, but we can try doing a quick animation thing, because once it's dropped into a scene, we're not going to be able to interact with it. And I think what we can do is effectively, one thing we can try real quick. So we've got a canvas. It's rendering it to a canvas. Environment. Where is this background coming from? With background environment, preset sunset. So is there let's go look at their environments real quick. What I'm curious about loading textures. Oh, so you can load textures separate. Interesting. See, in this, once you have textures in there, especially if they're JPEGs, like that caches pretty well. And I think that helps reduce the size of this overall. I mean, it doesn't reduce the size, but if you have a small texture file, you don't need to have that texture. You're not loading in that texture applied to everything. You're loading in that little piece of texture that you can cache and you can apply to everything. So that helps as far as this downloading size. Performance pitfalls and gotchas. Those would be interesting to come back to. I'm actually curious what dry is, which is 3 in German, I'm assuming. So the canvas render. I'm wondering if, oh, nice, look at that, go with search in here. Environment. Presets. So like we don't want a preset. Night. I'm actually curious what night is. Set night background. Yeah, so it's still got, so what I'm curious about is in OBS, you can set, with CSS, you can set some things as transparent. So like we don't really need a background. We could have more of like a gray environment like we have here, and we could just set all of that to transparent or to display none effectively, and then we could effectively have like a ring or something rotating. Like there could be, which way are we going here? This way. Nope, this way. Backwards. Yeah. There we go. There we go. Like we could have a little rotating thing here that does animations when you do text chat kind of stuff. And it would be floating rather than just like a camera, you know, like this is a square right here. This camera motion is hard. Like this is a square right here. We can't do much with this. But it'll be almost like a green screen. I guess that's probably the best way to describe it. It's effectively like, it would be effectively like a green screen. So if we can get, is there an environment? We just don't want any environment. Preset null. Background false. Okay. So if we say null. Oh, background false. Ah. JSX. So it's actually null, not the string null. All right, what are we doing? What are we doing that's different here? Path to the file. Preset is null. Scene is undefined. I don't much care about the scene. Failure to load. Background is false. Do we just not have an environment? Do we just have to take the environment out? There we go. So theirs is colored, I'm guessing reflective black, which is going to be very dependent on the scene. Which is fine. Open a new window. I'm not sure if my changes are actually going to be reflective if we added back in OBS here. Let's try a browser source. For test gltf again. So you can see here we've got background color. That. And I believe if it's white, it makes it transparent. Yeah, okay, so it's still loading the old one. We could play around with that. I'm pretty certain we can make that work. So I'm not too worried about that. I'm not. That's not a curiosity. That was just a. I know we can get it to work, and I was hoping we could just get it to work real quickly there. Okay, now my window's all weird, goofy. Go back to normal size, please. Thank you. All right. So does anybody have any questions so far? We've got something that can be exported from Blender. We can import it into a web page. And I think we can also, this at least supports importing it into OBS. And I imagine we could probably do it with this model viewer too. But I tend to use React and have a proclivity to try React 3.js. So I guess the only other thing that I would want to, do they have like a getting started? Make this bigger. I guess we can just import it. Basic animations. I want to see what the animations are. So we can only do it on canvas. Use frame. Execute code on every frame of fibers render loop. So we can make a ref. And I'm not sure how this is gonna track to, so like loading models. Oh, nice. I just realized they've got suspense in here. So GLTF primitive gltf.scene. It's using the loader, it's loading that. And so model, so they've got a model component and they're bringing it in from here, which is doing this. And it has a ref. It's assigning meshes and use GLTF. So we've got some access to it. Nodes, where do the nodes come in? Nodes. Okay. So it looks like we can kind of animate this separately. We'll get like separate pieces. And I'm not sure if this sort of requires us to use a GLTF. I'm guessing so if we want like deeper access to this. So when we export it, I don't think we've got any textures or anything tied to this. So when we export it from here, a GLTF I think will end up looking the same as a GLB. And that's something that we can open up. Let's do it. Let's do it. Export GLTF. We're going to say, call it Taurus Blue still. Let's not do the binary format. Let's do GLTF there. Close that workspace, please. I don't need that right now. Close folder. I want to blink. VS Code, there we go. Okay. So we should be able to open that. So you can see it is a very large JSON file with that, which is a big data blob. But for the most part, we've got these pieces. And we can hook into these pieces. So we have got one node. One node, one scene. And my understanding is that between the meshes and the nodes, we'll be able to, let's go back to these docs. Basic animations. We can do animations with refs. We want to directly mutate our mesh each frame. So let's see if we can do some, is there some quick animation that we can do to try this? We've got maybe 10 minutes or so, 10, 15. All right. Now I've done very little animation. So this is going to be very new to me. So we've got a play button and it's going to play through stuff. It's doing numbers up at the top here, which is the frames. I'm wondering if you can do markers. So what can we do? So like, is that gonna play through? Like, I don't know if editing it, that's the part that I'm not like quite clear on, is how I can sculpt, but that's very stationary. It's like a thing that you do and then it's done. How do we apply it to a specific, like, I think keyframe is the right word? Action editor? Dope sheet. Edit all keyframes in a scene. Edit keyframes and active objects, object level action. New action. New action. So we get multiple actions here. I don't know how to, like, do you draw them on here? Auto keying, automatic keyframe. Like, this might end up being like a tutorial type thing. I am unfamiliar enough with it that doing animations off the cuff might be something that we can't do on stream. So you're adding the frames, or no, those are markers. I don't know that those make a difference. Delete markers. These are the different channels. So like, I want to make a new thing in here, like an animation-y thing. But that's the part that I'm not sure how to do. All right. Blender animation. Can we get a quick high-level overview? Enough to get me running real quick. Yeah, so rigging is, I think, tying up all the bones. Animation toolset. Yeah. So you sort of rig up the points where you can make animations from. Automatic skinning, interesting. So keyframes. Moving, deforming, like I think for now, like I'd be perfectly fine just deforming. So we need to figure out this keyframe stuff. So we added a keyframe. When the current frame is a keyframe for the name of the object is shown. So I need to add a keyframe. Key. Using delete, insert, all. Like it didn't seem to add a keyframe. New keyframe type. Insert. Oh, what did it say? Reporter, no active keying set. So do I need to like object mode? Do I have to like select it? Mouse click on channels. Ah, okay. So I have to click in here, available. Oop. All right, let's insert a keyframe. Auto keyframe. Auto keyframe is the record button. Okay, so if we do, I mean, we've got it on right now. If I hit this and then I start sculpting, is that gonna just like sculpt mode? So like if I do this, is it just gonna start? It doesn't seem like it's actually doing any keying. No suitable context info for active keying set. That's not particularly helpful. Delete delete clear edit. Wow. All right. In the timeline, select set the frame to 1. Okay. Frame is set to 1. With the cube selected in object mode, press I in the 3D view. So that maybe that's why it doesn't like. Oh. I've got some animation stuff in there already. Your animation data. All right, let's try adding. Let's add a cube. We are going to. All right. I don't know how I open this window over here. is sort of starting to get kind of annoying. So if I just select the cube and do I, okay, so you can. Interesting. So why can't I add it for this one? No suitable context info for active keying set. So that's something we're gonna have to come back to. I'm not quite sure why it's not showing up there, but it definitely works here. So like that's clearly working. And so this sets it there. So if we would do like a rotate, we play that back, that rotates it. So that's how we get animation. So we're gonna take this out. We're gonna just roll with the cube for the moment. And you can see there it's basically animating between points. So what we would do is we would say we want to start here, and we want it to move to this spot and then move to this spot, and it would sort of do those transitions in between. So if we do export from here, I think we're gonna also get that data in there. We're gonna call it animated square. We're gonna leave it as a GLTF. We don't need you to keep animating, so please pause for the moment. We can close the loader for right now. Now, if we pull it into this model viewer, I think it's going to show them animation. Auto rotate, no thank you. So I don't see the animation happening, and I don't see anything to enable it. Types, meta. So when we do export, what options do we have for animation? Animation, let me play back to 1. Okay. So if we look at this model viewer that they have here, does it show up in there? I'm looking to confirm that when I export, that it actually is it only gonna work with supposedly works with me. Okay. Yep. The shadows and stuff are kind of going wonky, but it is definitely exporting that animation that I added in there. So we should be able to tie into that. And that might involve some of this. So like once we've got it rigged, we can do the animation through React 3 Fiber. So we don't need to do the animation in here, but I kind of expected it to actually play. And it might just be that their viewer doesn't have it enabled. So it's use GLTF, use animations, actions. cat sneezing. Like, I don't need to. Is this just a box too? I'm assuming there is. Oh, it's just, that's just a starter. Okay, so we can key into the animations. And we do use frame. Kind of hoping I can just grab some code and copy and paste a little bit here, so we can get this rolling. Can I edit? No, I can't. So it looks like the editor is a little bit locked down where it's more of just a viewer. Which is fine. I mean, that's what it is. Ah, here, code sandbox. Okay, and that actually spun up my own instance of it. So I think that'll pull it in. Yeah, okay. So we've got yes, okay. We have on the right my square. Got on the left the I hide their sandbox. Guess I'll just do this. This is their example. They've got a rotating box. So clock, where is clock coming from? That must be built in. Use rev, group. So there's use animations and use frames. I think use frames is a tick, and you can run an animation off of a tick, or you can use animations to animate something directly. Use frame is not a function. Interesting. So I don't know if dry and that work. Use GLTF. Okay, so like this is a canvas. I think GLTF is actually going to be different. I'm gonna leave that there. We're gonna do use frame is not a function. React 3 fiber. Okay, so my mesh is the ref. So here we want to do group. And like this is doing the actual rotation, I think. Yeah, because it's doing a rotation off of that. I'm not quite sure how to get the built-in animation to show up. But that might be something that we play around with another time. Let's look at what it output. I want to see if it shows the animation in here. I'm assuming it's going to. Open file. We want to do an animated square. Yeah, so see here, we've got an animations. So that's actually embedded in there. There's my big data stream. And actually, how big is that? Yeah, that GLTF is 12 kilobytes. So you can kind of see here for sizes. These end up acting more in the vein of images. So like those look like big numbers, but they're not large in the space of images necessarily, especially if this is, if you're putting something like this on a website, it's probably going to be a bigger focal point. So it's not just, it's just not a side image that you don't really want to waste bytes on. This is something that you can, like having that many kilobytes for an asset that's the focal point of your site is not the end of the world, I wouldn't say. Obviously that's going to change as pieces get bigger though. So it's something that you definitely need to keep an eye on. But so the animations are definitely there. The model viewer, this other model viewer has the ability to show it. So we need to look into how to do GLTF with React 3 Fiber and using their model animation. So like we've just got a scene. Loading GLTF models as JSX components. Oh, so that actually like throws it into JSX. So that's how they kind of work together. And then we can potentially add the animation on top. Going to FBX, showing a loader. Yeah, so we'll have to play around a little bit with how we can get the animation in there. Because I think there's probably a combination of, like, I want this rotation to happen. Like, this is just it's always going to be doing that. But we also want to have, like, animation. We want to add in rigging, I believe was the term, where we can trigger specific animations to happen. So, like, this could just always be rotating, but when somebody does like a chat command or something like that, it would spin. So I think we want to have the ability to do both, but that'll be something we get into next time. I think that's gonna be it for today. Happy to have a couple of people stop by and say hi. Thanks for stopping by anybody that kind of came by to lurk. Feel free to say hi next time. Happy to answer questions. I'm kind of learning this as I go, so you can come and learn along with me. And I think we'll dig into React 3 Fiber a little bit more next time. And for the most part, they've got a growing collection of useful helpers and abstractions. That's kind of cool. The management libraries. So there's like a marketplace for this, where they've got I thought they had a marketplace. Marketplace. That is not terribly helpful. Yeah, and there's the use canon, use gesture. And this is sort of what we were working with today, I think. Oh, you can do MP4s on GitHub now? That's nifty. Yeah. So there's... Okay, so I expect it to be in the public folder. Oh. Gotcha. Thought they had a marketplace. Market. Here we go. Market, not marketplace, market. So I think this has got a whole bunch of models. And you can see here they've got a bunch of animated ones. And those I think will have that built-in rigging. So just their normal rotation here. This is like that built-in model that we were looking at. Meshes, vertices, textures. But once you pull it in, it sounds like this one's got the rigging to do that animation stuff that we were talking about. Nifty. And oh, they do have materials here too. So this is potentially a place we can get, whoa. Stylized crystal. That's kind of cool. I dig it. So this might be something that we look into. Combination of pieces from here and playing around with Blender, we can make something that we could put someplace. I'm assuming the ones that have animations or ability to are probably shown as animations here. Yeah, I am looking at React 3 Fiber, which is a React library built on top of 3JS. And I was experimenting today, we're just finishing up, but there's a program called Blender, and Blender is able to export GLTF, which is a file format that 3JS can. Is it 3JS or specifically React? I've got too many tabs now. I closed their docs. I think it's React 3 Fiber has a loaders that can load these. I presume that 3JS does as well. But then you could load it onto a web page, and we could then also potentially put it onto the stream. Which would be cool, having an interactive model that's chat can interact with on the stream. So, but we were looking at the assets that they had on their market, of which they've got a fair amount now. Nice. I don't know what this skin means offhand. So we'll have to look into the animation part of it, because I think that'll be the nifty thing. Like putting a model, yeah, just playing around, experimenting, you know. The putting a model like on the stream or on a website is nifty, but I think the animation and the interaction is what makes it. It sort of like brings it up another whole nother level. There's not too many on here though that appear to be animated, which is what it is. There's a couple other websites too that have this stuff. Have you done any 3JS before? I haven't. I've played around with it some, but I haven't had a use case where I wanted to dive in. So this is sort of my first real use case. Nice, nice. Yeah, so I think we're finishing up for the day. Actually went a little bit longer than I was expecting, but I think next time, same time next week, next week. Might not actually stream next week, because I think I have off, but we'll see. We'll definitely be playing around with this in the future, and I think I want to do something in Blender, put something together and export it and import it into Vue.js scene. So that will be things that we keep on playing with. So feel free to hit that follow button and stop by again in the future. All right. Do you have any other questions? Otherwise, I think we are going to end for the day. Cool. I think we can probably do a quick raid here. If we've got anybody rolling. I think so. We're not a whole ton of people, but we can do a raid. So stick around. Friend Alex is also streaming. We can go check them out. Otherwise, I will see you next time. Thanks for stopping by, everyone. See ya.